let's get into main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Omar94. And Omar94 writes, where is Omar? There he is. Writes, "Hi, John. Huge fan since AMC from Florida." Thank you so much, Omar. This might be a dumb question, but what exactly is an option? When you read something like a studio optioning a script or an IP, what does that mean exactly? I looked into it to try to understand it, but ended up really confused. I was hoping maybe you could explain it in layman's terms. Thanks, and bring on the filthy. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, listen, don't feel dumb. It's not a dumb question. There's terminology. When you get so used to hearing terminology thrown around, you just forget that you've never actually heard a definition for it. Like, what is it? It's just thrown around all the time, so you don't even think about it. How many times have we heard that such and such director just signed a contract with this studio that'll have an option, first look on all of his stuff? Such and such a producer just bought the option on this novel to have it turned into a movie. Look, what the hell are you actually talking about when you're talking about an option? Now, it should be said that it can mean a couple of different things. So I'm going to give you the one general idea about it, and then I'll let Rob, who is more experienced in this than I do, kind of take it home. So in basic terms, an option means this. The studio isn't buying the rights to your book to make a movie. Say you've written a book and let's say Sony comes to you and they want to option your book. That's not them buying the rights to make the movie. What it means is they have the option to make the movie and you can't let anybody else have that option to make a movie. Let's put it another way. I actually wrote a script. Got to be about 15 years ago now. And it wasn't even very good. But I wrote a script about 15 years ago that wasn't actually all that good. It was a sci-fi thing. Anyway, and a production company in Canada, I had a mutual friend and a contact, read it, and they decided they kind of liked it. And so what they did was they paid me a certain amount of money that for, I believe it was like 6 months. It was really short. They bought basically a 6-month option, which means for the next 6 months, I can't let anybody else have this. If I'm going to negotiate somebody turning my script into a movie, I can only negotiate with this studio. They have the option to negotiate. And then if they want to make it, then they can buy the rights to it. And that's a separate deal altogether. Think of it this way. If you own a car and I'm thinking, you know what? I might want to buy that car, but I'm not 100% sure I want to buy the car. Tell you what, Franco's the guy selling the car. I'm not 100% sure I want to buy the car, but I might want to buy the car. Tell you what, I'll give you $500, not to buy the car, but I'll give you $500 just not to sell the car to anybody else for the next 2 weeks. And then if I decide I want to buy the car, then you and me can try to make a deal. And if we don't make a deal, or if 2 weeks pass, then you can sell the car to whoever you want. This is the way it was kind of described online. To be more specific, when a screenplay is optioned, the producer has not actually purchased the rights to use the screenplay. The producer has simply purchased the exclusive right to purchase the screenplay at some point in the future, if the producer is successful in setting up a deal to actually film a movie based on the screenplay. So it just means for that period of time, you get it. Now, Rob, you have had more experience in these things than me. I've only had very minor experiences in them. How would you define that to people or explain to people the idea of a studio buying an option?
Well, I mean, I've actually purchased options myself
That's
for
right.
books, so what you do is basically like, if I want to go turn a book into a movie, what you do is you option the right. It's a promise. The option is you're optioning the right to buy the rights to the book later. So I'd go to and there's money that changes hands, because if you're not changing hands, if money is not changing hands, your option isn't real. So never believe anybody that wants a free option on anything. Never take a free option. If you've written a book, never accept a free option deal, because people need to put money down to show that they're serious and they're motivated.
Can I throw something in here to back up what you just said?
Mm-hmm.
So this is important. I'm so glad you said that, Rob, because this is an important thing to understand in contract law. Some people think that, oh, you told me I could have that. That is not a contract. That is not a contract. In contract law, for there to actually be a binding agreement legally, there are 4 things. There's probably actually more, but basically speaking, there are 4 basic things that have to be in play. Number 1, offer. There has to be an official offer. Number 2, there has to be acceptance. So somebody needs to make an offer. Number 2, somebody needs to accept. Number 3, and this is key, there has to be consideration. What that means is exactly what Rob just said. Money needs to change hands. So if I say to Rob, hey, Rob, I'd like to offer to drive you to San Diego for Comic-Con next year. Offer. And Rob says, thanks, John. That'd be great. I accept your offer. There's acceptance. A lot of people think that makes a legally binding agreement. It doesn't. There has to be consideration. There has to be money that changed hands. So I say, hey, Rob, I will drive you to San Diego next week if you give me $5. And then Rob says, great, I need a ride to San Diego next week. Here's $5. Now you have offer, acceptance, and consideration. Now, the 4th thing is something called, you got to have standing, okay, or capacity, which basically means like you can't make a legally binding agreement with a minor. If Rob was drunk when we were making this deal, he does not have legally capacity. Therefore, our contract wouldn't be honored. Our contract wouldn't be honored. So you got to have offer, acceptance, capacity, but there has to be consideration. Rob, I thought that was so brilliant that you brought that up. I just had to elaborate on that. Please continue.
No, and I would say this. What's another very important thing about an option is the option usually defines the terms of the later purchase of whatever it is you're optioning. So say I have a book that I really want to try and make into a movie. I have to define, okay, I go to the author and say, listen, I would like to purchase an option from you for it. There's usually a duration. Could be 6 months. It could be a year. It could be 18 months, 24 months, maybe. I mean, as a shrewd producer, I would always want to get the longest amount of time I could because it takes a while to get movies made. So there'll be a time, let's just call it 18 months. So let's say I give the author $5,000 for the option to have that book for 18 months to try and get it made. That option will say, if I choose to exercise the option, meaning that when I exercise the option, I am buying the book. That purchase price is already somewhat defined in your original option agreement. There's usually a ceiling, a floor and a ceiling. So it is not to be less than $100,000 and not to be more than $1 million. And so you could say if it's a one page, if it's a top sheet or something, with the money to be negotiated in good faith later. Because when you do what's called a long form agreement, there's all these things that have to be defined. Like, what if you're going to make sequels, and does the writer get to be involved? I mean, there's all kinds of things that you're considering. But basically, an option is the beginning of being able to later purchase the rights to a piece of material or a story. It could be somebody's life story. You can option a person's life story. You can option a newspaper article. You know, whatever there is that you're interested in, and that's what you're doing. And by the way, if the 18-month period runs out, your option agreement also would define the terms to extend that option. So when your option runs out after 18 months, you can say that it'll be in your agreement that says you can renew this option for either another $5,000 for another 18 months, or maybe it's a lesser term, like 12 months or something. But that's basically what an option is. So what happens a lot of the time is studios get books and articles and things before they've even come out, and they can preemptively option something before it hits the market if they think it's got potential. So that's why there's studios, or you have people scouring. They get galleys from publishers, and they're reading all this material that comes out before it comes out to hopefully find a diamond in the rough or something they believe in, so they can preemptively option something before it even hits the open market.
There you go. So, folks, I hope that cleared it up a little bit. And if you guys can think of something, for those of you who know a lot about this stuff, if there's an important part you think Rob or I are missing, please go ahead and fire that down into the comments section below. And hopefully now that makes it a little bit more clear when you hear us talk about how, hey, Christopher Nolan has optioned the novel rights to this book somebody wrote. Now you kind of have a better understanding what that's about. All right, guys.